Welcome to the Folktale Project. This is Dan Shawls. This week, I'm bringing you 3 stories from North America, specifically from Myths and Legends of California and the Old Southwest, compiled and edited by Katherine Judson. I really like this collection. It leans very heavily on compiling Native American tales, and this week, we're going to get a few origin stories, some of my favorites. Our first story comes from the Zuni people of New Mexico. This is the beginning of Newness. Before the beginning of the new-making, the All-Father Father alone had being. Through ages there was nothing else except black darkness. In the beginning of the new-making, the All-Father Father thought outward in space, and mists were created and uplifted. Thus, through his knowledge, he made himself the Sun, who was thus created and is the Great Father. The dark spaces brightened with light. The cloud mists thickened and became water. From his flesh, the Sun Father created the seed stuff of worlds, and he himself rested upon the waters. And these two, the fourfold containing Earth Mother and the all-covering Sky Father, the surpassing beings with the power of changing their forms even as smoke changes in the wind, were the father and mother of the soul beings. Then, as man and woman spoke these two together, "Behold," said Earth Mother, as a great terraced bowl appeared at hand and within it water, "this shall be the home of my tiny children. On the rim of each world country in which they wander, terraced mountains shall stand, making one great region many mountains, by which one country shall be known from another." Then she spat on the water, and struck it and stirred it with her fingers. Foam gathered about the terraced rim, mounting higher and higher. Then, with her warm breath, she blew across the terraces. White flecks of foam broke away and floated over the water. But the cold breath of Sky Father shattered the foam, and it fell downward in fine mist and spray. Then Earth Mother spoke. "Even so shall white clouds float up from the great waters at the borders of the world, and clustering about the mountain terraces of the horizon shall be broken and hardened by thy cold. Then will thy shed downward in rain spray the water of life even into the hollow places of my lap. For in my lap shall nestle our children, mankind and creature-kind, for warmth in thy coldness." So even now the trees on high mountains near the clouds and Sky Father crouch low toward Earth Mother for warmth and protection. Warm is Earth Mother, cold our Sky Father. Then Sky Father said, "Even so, yet I too will be helpful to our children." Then he spread his hand out with the palm downward, and into all the wrinkles of his hand he set the semblance of shining yellow corn grains. In the dark of the early world dawn they gleamed like sparks of fire. "See," he said, pointing to the 7 grains between his thumb and forefingers. "Our children shall be guided by these when the Sun Father is not near and thy terraces are as darkness itself. Then shall our children be guided by lights." So Sky Father created the stars. And he said, "And even as these grains gleam up from the water, so shall seed grain like them spring up from the earth when touched by water to nourish our children." And thus they created the seed corn. And in many other ways they devised for their children, the soul beings. But the first children in a cave of the earth were unfinished. The cave was of sooty blackness, black as a chimney at night time, and foul. Loud became their murmurings and lamentations until many sought to escape, growing wiser and more man-like. But the earth was not then as we now see it. The Sun Father sent down 2 sons, sons also of the foam cap, the beloved twain, twin brothers of light, yet elder and younger, the right and the left, like to question and answer in deciding and doing. To them the Sun Father imparted his own wisdom, he gave them the great cloud bow, and for arrows the thunderbolts of the 4 quarters. For buckler, they had the fog-making shield, spun and woven of the floating clouds and spray. The shield supports its bearer, as clouds are supported by the wind, yet hides its bearer also. And he gave to them the fathership and control of men and of all creatures. Then the beloved twain with their great cloud bow lifted the sky father into the vault of the skies, that the earth might become warm and fitter for men and creatures. Then, along with the sun-seeking trail, they sped to the mountains westward. With magic knives they spread open the depths of the mountain and uncovered the cave in which dwelt the unfinished men and creatures. So they dwelt with men, learning to know them, and seeking to lead them out. Now there were great things growing in the depths, like grasses and vines, so the beloved twain breathed on the stems, growing tall toward the light as grass is wont to do, making them stronger, and twisting them upward until they formed a great ladder by which men and creatures ascended to a second cave. Up the ladder into the second cave whirled men and beings crowded, following closely the 2 little but mighty ones. Yet many fell back and were lost in the darkness. They peopled the underworld from which they escaped in after-time amid terrible earth-shakings. In this second cave it was as dark as the night of a stormy season, but larger of space and higher. Here again men and beings increased, and their complainings grew loud. So the twain again increased the growth of the ladder, and led men upward, not all at once, but in 6 bands, to become the fathers of the 6 kinds of men, the yellow, the tawny grey, the red, the white, the black, and the mingled. And this time also many were lost or left behind. Now the 3rd great cave was larger and lighter, like a valley in starlight. And again they increased in number, and again the 2 led them out into a 4th cave. Here it was light like dawning, and men began to perceive and to learn variously according to their natures, wherefore the twain taught them first to seek the Sun-Father. Then, as the last cave became filled and men learned to understand, the 2 led them forth again into the great upper world, which is the world of knowing, seeing. And that is the beginning of Newness, an origin story of the world by the Zuni. And I love these stories. I love seeing how different cultures viewed the beginning of the world. And this one is just fascinating. This is Dan Scholes with the Folktale Project. Don't forget that you can subscribe to the podcast on Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, Google Play, Overcast, anywhere you like to get your podcasts. You can follow us on Twitter at Folktale Project. You can find us on Auto Radio, TuneIn Radio, iHeartRadio, Spotify, anywhere you'd like to listen. And you can always head over to folktaleproject.com, where you'll find a new story waiting for you every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. As always, thank you so much for listening.